Why are you so professional today?
Why, Susie, why? Okay, we are here today to tell you about
Hue Crew.
Hue Crew. Well, I thought you were going to say work-life balance.
Work-life balance.
The three taboo words.
Oxymoron.
Well,
The whole string
whole
of
thing,
words
yeah.
is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Now, why is that, Susie?
Well,
No.
because today I was working on a presentation about work-life balance that I'm speaking on this week, and the irony is that the presentation is tomorrow. I got the presentation in today.
Oh.
Yes,
Been thinking
yeah.
about this for weeks, and it's just like, and my first slide actually says work-life balance is a lie, because it is.
It is.
So I think so many people strive for that, I don't want to say perfect balance, but close to perfect balance, and they never get there.
No.
And so they're stressed about not being there. They're stressed about not having work-life balance, and it's just like, we need to stop stressing.
So who invented that? I believe it
I don't
has
know.
to be a
It was a
guy.
guy. It was a guy who invented it,
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
was a guy. Just
Yeah.
feeling, sorry for his wife or whatever, right?
There's no such thing. And then it's the guilt,
Oh, that's
right? So
Yeah.
even if I went for a walk this morning early, 'cause I was
Right.
just like trying to decompress, and I felt guilty. I'm like, I should be on my car, I should be on my way to work, I gotta prep for, but I mean, what? I'm not even allowed an hour for myself?
You are allowed.
But that's what I'm saying. So like,
Yes. I know.
it is we carry guilt even
Yes.
if we do have quote unquote work-life balance. There's no such thing.
Or if you're trying to make time for work-life balance, you feel guilty.
You
about
feel
that.
guilty.
Yeah, I know.
You know.
So is it true though, because people say, oh,
There's not enough time in the day, there's not enough days in the week, there's not enough weeks in a month, blah, 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 because I am so busy. Why are we so busy, too?
So part of the discussion that I was looking at today as well is because of our phones as well. So because we don't have the physical ability to disconnect from work, even when we're at home or not at work, we feel that much more stressed as well.
Yeah.
That
So-
email ding that makes you want to jump off a bridge.
Before, you could leave your computer at
Yeah.
work, you weren't
Right.
checking emails at home, you weren't doing anything, and you weren't expected to. But now, some workplaces have the expectation that you can text me at night, you
Yes.
can email me,
Yeah.
or I will check something when I get home, and that can be intrusive depending on how you have yourself set up to, manage those boundaries.
I know. Okay, so here is something interesting though. Everybody nowadays, especially for a lot of us working out of home or being self-employed, when does that work clock shut off? Like, are we only to do emails and work-related things 9 to 5? And then if you're working with somebody in Vancouver,
Yeah.
well, they're 2 hours behind.
Yeah.
And,
I just
and
feel like it
maybe
doesn't
they
end.
work and maybe they work at a different space and time too. So it's so confusing.
Yeah. So I mean, from that end, I think that's a result of, or that's just globalization, right? Like that's
Right.
when your
Yeah.
work becomes globalized, and there is no. There are no barriers, and everything is just
Yeah.
universal and kind of communal and global. You don't have those time limits. I mean, you can get a call. I mean, I've had conference calls at like 6 in the morning because of time.
I know.
And you're all
I know.
groggy and your voice is all stupid.
Yeah.
But those things happen. So that's just a result of, and depending what industry you're in, I think it's just a result of globalization and that expectation. But there's also just that other component is, what does busy mean? Are we expected to be moving constantly? Like, do we have to have our phones on while we're lying there watching TV or kids or whatever? I mean, what does that even mean? Like, what does busy even mean? But I also, as a joke, but not really a joke,
Here it comes.
just truth bombs all the way through today. It's just
Yes.
that kind of day. I'm one of those people, and I actually feel bad because, when people call me and they're like, hey, like 7:30, and they'll be like, let's go out, let's go for dinner, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, I'm busy. I'm busy.
Yeah.
But meanwhile,
You're taking time for you.
I am in my pajamas. I'm watching Netflix. I'm watching American
that's
Vandal.
busy.
I'm
Yeah.
laughing at, but
You've blocked in time
I've
for
just,
you.
But it's just so funny that once you hit like 40 or 41, it's no longer like, call me anytime and I'm gonna get up and go.
not
It's,
as
it's
important.
just not life. Like, I just don't do it. But then you feel bad saying no, so you're like,
Yeah.
I'm busy, have other plans, but my other plans, frankly,
Are the couch
So-
right here,
The
right now.
couch.
Yes.
in my bed.
Yep.
So I don't know if we've talked about this. So then what is the proper texting reply? And even texting. And I mean, that draws a gray area. So,
So
personal.
we have talked about this, right? Because we text each other
Yes.
stuff, and I do not reply all the time. I do not. I can't, because my phone is pinging all the time with work stuff, and if it's not something that I'm expecting or need to have an answer to, then I don't respond right away. Now, that also means that you shouldn't be offended by it. It just means I will answer when I'm ready to answer. And if you need an answer, you can probably just call me, even though I don't want you to call me. I want you to text me.
Don't text me. Don't call
But
me.
it means the answer is coming when I'm ready.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too, because if it's work related or you know that kind of relationship with that person, but what happens when it's a personal thing? Or
Well,
You know,
and
that's a really
some people
good-
are good texters and some people are terrible texters.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
kind of
I
have to take it with a grain of salt.
But
right?
imagine like, okay, so this is a thing though, right? So there's relationships,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
if you're like single and you're 40 and blah blah, and someone
Yeah.
doesn't text you back, that is offensive.
Yeah, okay.
Literally,
It's
how
like,
dare
bye-bye.
you?
And you see the
No,
dots, and you're just like dot dot dot. And you're just
I
like,
see
when's
you.
the answer
And I
coming? And then
saw-
it never comes.
I saw that you read that and you are not responding. That pisses me off. But that's a different story. But like in normal friendships, like I know like a lot of my girlfriends, everybody understands. And I've said this many times. Like I have a group chat with like 10, 15 of my high school girlfriends, and it's constantly going. And we're all even just like all today is just constant. But it's like there's no expectation there. So I think that your relationships matter, and I think like the greatest blessing is to have those relationships that there's no expectation. Like we're just venting and we're just communicating with each other. And there's girls on there who like catch up like on a Thursday night. And they'll be like, okay, like just caught up, Rana, your office looks great, and blah blah. Like they'll just go through the whole thing and catch up.
Yes.
But there's no expectation. So it just depends on what's the context. Like if you're newly dating or in a relationship and you don't text back after you have been, that's annoying to me. Like I'm sorry, I gotta take these off.
Pause for pause, right? Yeah.
Like I find that so irritating.
So what is that? Just like a loser way to say I'm not interested, like not
No,
having
because
the
then they
guts
are
to-
interested.
What?
It's just I feel like people just get
Carried away
comfortable.
or
No,
get-
they get comfortable.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. So the urgency isn't there.
Yeah, like
Okay.
you're no longer trying to impress me, so
Yes.
you're okay pissing me off. You're okay.
You're okay when I'm upset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
crazy.
yeah.
No, but and then getting into this whole Trump and Kavanaugh and all of this, you know what? It's like cause for like I don't really follow it, but I mean it was cause for almost a big heated argument on the couch the other night, and it was because one side just sides with Kavanaugh and the other one sides with her, and I don't know, like.
It's a tough thing to do. It's tough. You know what's, and you can probably speak to this.
No, I mean, I just think that, like I'd said to you, I have seen on my social media feeds this week, and I posted, that every woman in your life right now is listening to how the men in her life respond to this story.
Absolutely.
And as I said to my husband, the kids are listening as well. So you have little kids, little teenagers, tweens, whatever.
Oh, but they
they
know.
are listening to how their parents and how how the adults in their lives are discussing this case, this issue, this story, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And they are picking up your cues on how you feel about this issue, what you think about this issue, and if you are a safe place for them to speak about anything that happens in the future.
Agreed.
So think about that. As you let those words leave your mouth in front of your little kids or in front of your little nieces or nephews or the students that you teach, think about what you're teaching them about how you would receive information like that from them.
Right.
That's the most important thing. Because if we are teaching our kids that you don't tell, that it doesn't matter, and that you're not going to get any help anyway, what's the point?
You're
Yeah.
right. I know.
It's so important.
Yeah, we need to take out the shame and the stigma. And that, especially when it comes, I tell my children all the time, I'm the safest place you'll ever find. You can tell me anything, anytime, and I will always be in your corner. And, as we were talking too about, people say, oh, it's such a scary time, for young boys and stuff. And there was a great quote that came out and said, well, we also crack down really hard on murderers. So if you haven't killed anybody, I guess you're okay, kind of thing. And it's we need to have conversations about, and we talked about this in our earlier episodes too, about consent and about growing up in today's digital social media world and what that means for our children. And I always think, conversation and knowledge is empowering, and shutting things down doesn't help anybody. So we need to keep talking, period.
And it's dangerous. I think that a lot of parents who are, you know, of an older generation, and I mean, who knows? I mean, I can't even say that. Like, maybe that's not even, you know, legit. But like, knowledge is everything right now. The world has changed. Recognize that. Teach your boys as much as you're teaching your girls. While you're teaching your girls, you know, what consent is, you are teaching your boys what consent is.
Well, and we don't
like you have to, because the world is different, and somebody you love dearly at some point, because of the knowledge that you did not instill as a guardian, as a parent, as a sibling, even perhaps, you know, the knowledge that you didn't give them is going to cause them great distress in the future. Because when it comes to women, and when it comes to us and how we react to things, frankly, I think I've said this more than one time, I don't care if you get hurt. Because if you've done something and it deserves to be called out, and let's just use the word calling out, like calling out whatever it is, you're gonna find yourself in a very difficult situation.
But
there are consequences to this, and you can't just go around your life. Now, to be fair, you know, I think that, you know, through my political stuff, you know, I think it's pretty common knowledge. You know, I've dealt with a lot of things, and you know, and like one of the worst things I dealt with was like somebody grabbing me, you know, and to this day, it's been 2 years after, and I still haven't had the courage. I'll call it courage, or whether it's just, you know, I don't want to deal with the backlash, you know. I just don't have the mental or the emotional capacity today, while my life is just kind of doing so well, and you know, like I don't want to.
You don't want to disturb the apple.
Yeah, I don't want. But think about those women who are coming out now. They're probably thinking what I was thinking at that time, right?
Well, I think we have to remember too, like with Dr. Kavanaugh, or sorry, Dr. Ford especially. I used the phrase during last week that she was an excellent witness. Her testimony was rock solid. She had passed a polygraph, not that that should ever matter. She had notes from her therapist from, you know, 25, 30 years ago. There were multiple people that she had told, right? And people kept saying, you know, and she's also a psychologist. So she had the educational side of the trauma and why she remembered certain things and all this stuff that she was talking about. And that's great. But there is no one perfect way to be a victim.
One perfect way.
And there are women that remember nothing and that remember. Yes, and we need to understand that we had as close to a perfect witness as we did in Dr. Ford, and we're still ripping her to shreds. So if you've ever sat in a trial, and I have for a friend, and had a verdict read in a sexual assault case where the judge told her, you didn't remember, you know, enough specific details. And you feel like you've been punched in the gut as he says those words to her. You think to yourself, well, so when you report, it's not enough. When you don't remember, it's not enough. When you remember, it's not enough. So when is it enough?
Yeah, and that, okay, to be fair,
it's very heartbreaking.
I have to kind of bring this to, because you just kind of hit on some really important things. So, when residential school survivors, when residential school survivors were they were going through this process, and that process demanded that for them to claim sexual or physical abuse in the schools that they went to, they would have to remember a certain amount of detail. And it goes to the same thing. How do you expect somebody in their 70s or 80s or 40s or 50s or whatever it is to remember in such detail some of the literally moments in their lives that changed everything, the most traumatic thing that some of these people will ever go through? So it goes to the same thing. So for us, we're talking about women, but there's another whole component here, where people are demanded, like you are expected to remember everything. You know, what object, like we're going into a lot of details, so I hope there's no kids watching, but what objects were used, what did the room look like, what did the, you know, who, like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what we do to people? Like, it's horrible. You know? And we as women, we as women should be able to sympathize with that. Like, it should be us who are understanding and reading and learning about that process for survivors who've gone through that severe traumatic sexual abuse in some of these schools, and understand it, because it's comparable in a lot of ways. Not the schools aren't comparable, but in terms of how you speak of the trauma, right? How you disclose the trauma.
And
Like
everybody
the actual
remembers
issues
it.
are completely different, but I'm just talking about how do people actually speak about things that have happened to them, and what's the way to do it, and what should the expectations be? If you're demanding from people to come up with these details about, you know, what did the room look like, where was the desk, where was the chair, who was in the room, you're crazy. Like, go back and figure it out, because it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's wrong, straight up, it's wrong.
So,
And it's re-traumatizing.
And it's re-traumatizing, and what exactly are you gaining from it? And I think that's the question, and I'm a big value person. I mean, I believe in, you know, Canadian values, right? Like,
Yes.
we all do. Like, it's some of the things that we take the greatest pride in. But is that who we are as people? Is that who we are as Canadians? Is this who we are? Is this our world right now, that we accept this? You know?
it
Because
should be,
it
but
should
I mean,
not be.
it's been
Yeah.
out there, and the thing is that it's a little bit glorified, you know, unfortunately, with the media. So
Yeah.
my question is, would Dr. Ford would this all have come out if Kavanaugh was not going to be, you know, nominated or put into the Supreme Court? If he just stayed, even if he wasn't a senator, even if he just became, would this ever come out?
It's hard to say.
Hard to say. Though she did state that she felt it was her civic duty to disclose this information, right? So I think that, you know, and there's a Dr. Ford in every community. You know, there's someone out there who has similar stories of trauma, of people who are now in various positions of power and influence. And that's scary to know that they will be unchallenged and these things will never come to light. So I think what she did was incredibly brave and incredibly courageous. And I think anybody who discloses and reports is incredibly brave and courageous.
And it takes courage. It takes courage. And like you said, look, I feel like my personal view of myself, I feel like I'm a pretty courageous person, you know, and I feel like I go through life literally with no fear a lot of the time, because I'm not scared of what the end result is, because I know I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty confident in my own abilities
that's
to be
true.
okay.
Yeah.
You know,
and you need to have that.
yeah,
to
and
take
it's
the
gotten me
risks.
through a lot of things. But for this specific issue, I just don't know why. And I don't know. And I wish I had an answer for it, because and maybe someone out there does have an answer. Like, why is it? Like, why do we struggle so much with naming somebody and just being, and it doesn't even have to be a public naming, but at least going in front of that person and being like, it happened,
You can.
just so you know it happened.
Yeah.
And I know it happened, and you know, karma's I don't know what the word, a B-I, a B-I-T-C-H.
But then maybe these conversations will now start. You know,
Yeah.
let's hope with all of this that those other people that are in power that maybe have overstepped those lines,
Yep.
you know, a little too late.
Time's
but
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time's up.
Yeah. But it's kind of a mess. I mean,
It's a
if you
huge
think
mess.
look at Hollywood, I mean, Bill Cosby, and you know, it's and you kind of feel a little bit like duped when you kind of go back and you look at all, especially for a Hollywood figure that has, you know, been out there in the public and a
Well,
persona.
Bill Cosby, right? Like, Bill
There's
Cosby.
that level of trust, and it's kind of like,
But there were also 60 women
I
that
know,
came out against
yeah.
him.
I know it's horrendous. Like
It's
it was-
horrible.
60.
Yeah.
And those are the ones who chose to speak out, pardon
Yeah.
me. So you can imagine
Imagine
how many
more
didn't.
there are. Yeah.
No, and
Yeah.
it's But moving on though, going back, you were talking about your kids, and actually you said something really good about keeping the lines of communication and everything. And the world is different for kids. But anyways, going back to watching some TV, Netflix. But anyways, it wasn't on Netflix. It was, you know, one of our favorite shows, Law and Order. Anyways, it was very disturbing. It was the season opener, and it was about a normal American family, 2 boys, and playing sports. And I won't go into the backlog of it, but basically, in the end, he walks into the school, and he's a baseball player, so he's got like a batting bag with his bats in, but instead he's got a semi-automatic
Oh,
rifle.
my goodness. Yeah.
And he literally, it's like all the other kids, you see all the other kids walking into school with him. And they were, they did it tastefully because then the school door shut. And then all you hear are this ping, ping,
Oh
this
my
gun
goodness.
going off. And then
I was
the
so glad I
kids
don't watch too much.
I know, I know. But how innocent and how seemingly natural it is. And like the devastation, I'm like going, you're showing that, like, and of course, I mean, that's tame for what they can see or people can see.
yeah.
But it was really like a really kind of sick feeling. My kids aren't in school anymore, but our oldest is in university, the same thing. Like, you're just not safe anywhere anymore.
No. And it's a result of
Yeah.
something. It didn't just magically happen.
No.
I feel like, the minute we stopped having conscious thought process, like
Yeah.
we stopped being conscious of what we are thinking and what we are doing, and you're chasing after something that's not real. Right?
Well,
Like
yeah.
you're chasing after glory because you want to be, and I'm not saying this is why people shoot up. Like, I mean, who knows what their, some of it's mental, some of it's anger, some of it's whatever it may be. But there's something there that's a disconnect from reality, right? So, and then people will be like, well, like there's a lot of mental health issues, and there absolutely are.
Well, and I think that's
right?
coming into light more too.
And it's coming
Yeah.
into light more.
But they're also being conflated, which is not necessarily correct.
Correct
right?
either.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean,
feel like that is
Well.
a distinctly American problem. Not
It
that I'm
is.
saying it can't happen here,
No,
but
yeah.
that is a distinctly almost daily occurrence.
yeah.
There.
I was gonna say.
And I think that it's funny because I don't watch a lot of American television for that reason. I find it very disturbing that all of their
Well, it
plot
was.
lines revolve around the rape and murder of children or things like that.
Yeah.
And in the 90s when that show first came out, it was kind of
It was edgy,
it
but
was kind of edgy and titillating, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now, how many versions of CSI can you have? How
I
many
know.
versions of that
Yeah.
can you have? I prefer to not put those kind of shows in front of my face.
Yeah.
And so-
and your kids too.
Yeah.
And in this case, I mean, it was the whole going back to the old-fashioned ways. You're not a man until you
yeah.
kill an animal.
Oh, it was okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
he's
There's a lot-
not
yeah,
a man
there's a
until
lot
he
of-
shoots something, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
false narratives and a lot of cultural
It is.
reflections back in that
But
story,
this
right?
Is like today. I mean, it's 2018, and I mean, just celebrating, on the news or whatever, is the year anniversary of that horrible shooting in Vegas.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
I saw that.
And then there was a woman like from Toulon, and I mean, she's devastated. She went to a Bomber game, and she said she looked around and she said, "Oh well, all those people think they're safe." And that was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, part of it falls into life,
Yeah.
right? Like life is what it is, and that's it's a lot of managing and taking care of our families and our friends and our people, right? Like people you love and you care for. And that again comes back to knowledge. But I mean, somewhere along the line we messed up. Right, like as humans, right? We've messed up, and I come back to this. I truthfully feel like there's a disconnect between what is real. Social media is not real, right? There are only certain relationships, like as much as you may want to hear this or not, that are real. We only have really a handful of ride or
much
dies.
energy, yeah.
And you only have people who are really going to go to bat for you. Like not everything is about, sometimes things are just about caring and giving and love and taking care of family and taking care of friends and taking care of the water, the earth, what I mean? Like there's something bigger out
And what
there.
what you derive pleasure
Yeah,
from, and values from.
Well, what are your values, right? Like, are we here to just kind of, live till we're 80 and go through the process, and it's a rat race, and let's find the biggest house, the biggest car, the night. Like, I mean, who are we? And it comes back to, again, it's a value system. Like, what are your values?
And what's the why?
And what's the why? Like, what is your purpose to be in this? Not to get super, but really, like, have a thought process. Like, what is your purpose for this life of yours? Like, is it to contribute to the betterment of all of society? Is it just for yourself, or are you just kind of going through the day to day and coming back to work-life balance? And that's kind of, you know, it all kind of interrelates. Like, I don't owe anyone an explanation, just like you don't owe anyone an explanation. And I don't have to truthfully answer a call after 5 p.m. And if you don't want to be my client because of that, good on you. But we have to be able to have, again, the courage and the understanding of who we are and our values to be able to start making those decisions. Because we're allowing them to perpetuate and set expectations. Because the minute that we don't do this, we are just letting it go and perpetuating this for the next generation. And actually, a lot of this responsibility does fall on us, because for us, we are the first generation who knew what it was like without social media, and now we know what it's like with social media. When I was 12 or 15, there was no social media. This is all legitimately in my 20s, mid-20s that this all came about. So what is our responsibility as a generation? You know, there's a lot of whys and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
And it's too funny because sorry.
I've
obviously been watching a lot of TV.
Oh, that's okay.
So we're watching NFL. Hey,
Yes.
that season started. So there's Kansas City is a huge team, undefeated. So they have a star quarterback, 23 years old, which is like a baby.
A baby, right.
Yes, he is a baby. Patrick Mahone. Anyways, they did an interview with him, and he's breaking all these records. They're comparing him to Brett Favre and all these huge superstars. And she says, well, what's the one thing, you know, like you're now a rock star, blah, blah, blah. What's the one thing that comes into mind? Oh, my Instagram. I got, 100,000 more likes on my Instagram.
Okay.
And I'm going, oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my God. But falling exactly, it's that
all you see.
instantaneous. That's the instant
gratification.
which you're going after.
Well, and you know, we talked about that last time too, because I was talking about parents and Instagram and kids and Instagram, right? And if you're constantly checking your phones for those likes and that validation, I mean, that can be very soul-sucking, and it can really make you feel that, like you said, real versus not real, and vanity versus, you know, reality. And I think that we need to be instilling in our kids that what happens in the here and now in real life, not on the screen, is what's real. And you know, it would have been great if he had said, like, what's the, you know, one thing we're gonna do? Build a food bank in my hometown, you know, or build a playground for some neighborhood kids or something. Like,
or you know,
maybe he needs to take a lesson from King LeBron or something. I don't know, but
well, and then I know.
Or what challenge have I overcome? And I'm still here, kids. Like, you guys, like the world is really quite open. You can do anything. But
and I'm proof of that.
Yeah, I'm proof of that. Like, there's a whole host of things.
And let's live a life that's, you know, unfiltered. Like hashtag unfiltered, right? Like, stop putting the gloss over it. Stop putting the filter over it.
Pretending for it. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Because I think people, especially youth today, are so tired of pretending, and we're seeing that in mental health stats, you know, coming out of youth with anxiety and depression on the rise. And these kids are putting so much stock into what comes out of that phone or that device that they've lost all connection to what really matters in their lives, right? So it's really incumbent upon us as, you know, parents, teachers, educators, coaches, whatever, to help these kids keep it real, you know?
Oh, wow. So now I hear the water going,
it's starting up again.
Out of our pool. It is now
Here's
fall.
to next summer.
Thanksgiving. Well,
Yeah.
surround you guys by family
How
and
to
love.
get here so
I don't even know how it's here. I honestly, I don't know. But October's exciting. It's birthday month.
Yay!
Yeah.
Month.
so-
What should I do with
That's
my what should I do for my 41st?
Oh my God.
I don't know what to do.
Well, we'll take you to a spa.
It's
Next
a
Hue
good,
Crew.
it's a good conundrum to have.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers to Thanksgiving.
Cheers to
For solving all the world's problems.
At least communicating about them.
Yes. Okay.